You had a very good piece recapping the draft, including some intel on, as you put it, on intel on Drake Maye. The big fans of his at the University of North Carolina, huh?
Fred, thank you for that. So I talked to Mac Brown, the North Carolina head coach, just about, what would you tell Patriots, I guess fans, reporters, what should we know about him? And I just think it's so interesting to me, not following college sports, as closely, obviously, as I do the NFL, just how this NIL has changed college sports. And Mac Brown told me that Drake Maye, with these NIL deals that these athletes can get now, where they get paid, to represent companies, is that Drake Maye, Fred, wouldn't take any NIL deals unless his teammates were involved. So, like a company would say, we want you to, we'll give you our, a seafood dinner, every week if you, whatever, give us a commercial. And he said, yeah, I'll do it, but I need my offensive line to have it too. And so I thought it was sort of, he's a little bit of a throwback, Fred. And then I guess in after the 2022 season, the offensive coordinator left at North Carolina to go to Wisconsin. And I guess when that happens in college, a lot of times players leave, because the new offensive coordinator comes in, maybe, he doesn't feel the same way about you as a player. And I guess Drake Maye went into Mac Brown and said, you don't have to worry about me leaving. I'm not going anywhere.
So where do you land on Drake Maye and where you think he'll be by the end of camp in terms of his development, his NFL readiness, and if you had to guess right now, is he going to be taking the field early in the season?
Hardy, that is so hard to answer because I think it ties to a bigger question, and it's what type of coaching is he going to get?
Right.
And I think to me it's an unknown, right? So Alex Van Pelt's the offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach TC McCartney, got Ben McAdoo, who's a senior offensive assistant. And maybe one of the more interesting things, Hardy, that I heard just from talking to people around the league that they say is going to be so important for the Patriots is who is Drake Maye's quarterback guy here? Like, it can't be three of them. It can't, so it's got to be like one person to help bring him along. So I want to see what that looks like before I can, before answering that decisively. 26 career starts, and ideally, I think they'd like to give him a little time to bring him along. But the physical traits, if he shows he's the guy, I think Gerard Mayo, the head coach, would owe it to the team to put him out there right away.
Regardless of where Drake Maye shakes out in all of this, it's a very crowded quarterback room right now. The Patriots have, to believe, 5 of them as it stands, and a real surprise, we were just talking about it in the first hour, of taking Joe Milton in the 6th round. Where does everyone wind up, including Milton?
Yeah. So, John, it won't be 5 much longer, so I think Bailey Zappi and Nathan Rourke would be, the two of those two. I wouldn't expect at least one of them to be here much longer. I would pass along a couple numbers. Last year, 66 different quarterbacks started a game in the NFL. The year before, 68 quarterbacks started a game in the NFL. So you need more than, obviously you need more than one, but I think that's that's part of the reason the team is loading up. I think that pick, that actually caught me off guard a little bit. I think it caught Joe Milton off guard a little bit when we talked to him after the draft. They'll keep 3 would be my thought, and it would be Drake Maye with Jacoby Brissett and Joe Milton as a developmental type. And then maybe you also even keep one on the practice squad for 4. And I think that also ties to who's making the decisions now in Foxborough. Elliot Wolf's dad, Ron Wolf, when he was with the Packers, was known for always taking quarterbacks every year when he was running the show, just because of the importance of the position.
I have a kind of a silly question, but I don't know the answer, and you would more than anyone else I know. if Joe Milton comes into camp and is just atrocious, like can't play the position, do you think based on where they drafted him, they would just keep him anyway, or do you think there's an opportunity that he could not make this team?
So Fred, that's actually not a silly question, because I think there's two things that point in the draft, pick 193. That's not one of those spots where you say you're definitely on the roster, no matter what. For me, that cutoff is usually the fourth round. Okay. If you got picked in the fourth round or earlier, you're usually going to have a little more of a grace period to make the roster. So I wouldn't say he's guaranteed a roster spot based on where he was picked. And what I thought you were going to ask was, would they consider trying him at a different position?
Well, that was my follow up, is because I'm pretty familiar with him from the Michigan and Tennessee stuff. He can't play the position, so but he's huge. Yeah, and I mean he's a huge guy. He's a tight end size right now.
He's 6'5", 240.
Yeah. So like he could, and he's not slow, so he could conceivably be a tight end. This is how good a quarterback he is. So this has been brought up, and what are they? This is how is he meeting this? What are you hearing about that?
Well, that's right on it. I mean, and so we the way they do it, and the Patriots do a great job at this. They pick the player, and then we're interviewing the player within 10 minutes after the pick. And Fred, he was asked that, two times, and he said that will never happen. Meaning Joe Milton was asked, how would you feel about playing tight end? He said that will never happen. And then Drake Maye, after the draft, was asked about it. He said we drafted him as a quarterback. But Mayo did leave open the possibility that, look, you get to camp and you put the pads on, maybe something could happen, that leads to that, but that is not their intention right now.
Yeah. And so as you spent the weekend talking to analysts, because I would like to keep you for one more break if we could.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
So we'll just finish up on the quarterbacks here. As you went through the weekend, talking to analysts and talking to people, a lot of quarterbacks went. I think I don't know if I read. There's this no middle class in the NFL anymore. That there was all the quarterbacks taken in the first round, and then Rattler was the next kid in the fourth round. What do you? Anyone change their mind about May, or where people pretty confident about the pick? Where do people stand on it?
He's interesting. I mean, so in a lot of these guys, Fred, there's going to be differences of opinions, right? Like some people really liked him, and I think that's why you had teams talking to the Patriots about trying to trade up there. They would have taken him right there at 3. Talk about teams like the Giants and the Vikings. And then there were other teams that didn't have him rated as highly, and that's a draft. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't read too much into that. What I heard consistently was he was the cleanest of the top guys in terms of like the off-field intangibles, sort of what we talked about at the start of the conversation here. And that one person from a team told me that if I was making a big investment at that point in the draft at that position, he would be the one I felt the safest about taking at that spot.
And by the way, if the Bills and Vikings are trying to trade up for him, that seems good.
You got to look at the offensive minds behind
O'Connell
those.
and Daboll. I mean, I like that those two guys liked May. I mean, if they would have traded out of that pick to one of those two teams, I would have been like, well, what do they know that we don't know? Like these are not. This isn't the Raiders. This isn't Mark Davis or the Cowboys. This would have intrigued me.
I feel the same way, Fred. Those are two of the best quarterback, coaches in the league based on their history, and especially the one with Daboll with the Giants because of what he did with Josh Allen in Buffalo. And if you're a Patriots follower and you're hoping for the ceiling for Drake Maye, it's that type of quarterback. Josh Allen, big, 6'4", 223, can move pretty well, and has got the big arm.
And you should hear these, like, like the real old guys, like, that talk about football. You should, like, oh, he compared himself to Josh Allen. Well, first of all, that's not fair. He was sort of asked about it. Like, it's not like he was running around saying, I'm the next Josh Allen, which is Belichick kind of made it sound that way, too, on the McAfee thing. These old guys, and it's like, oh, no, Josh, like, why couldn't he be Josh Allen? Josh Allen's not the greatest quarterback that ever played. It's not like saying, oh, he's going to be Mahomes or he's going to be Brady. Like, you're saying, like, Josh Allen's not an unrealistic expectation. Not maybe an expectation, but it's not like if I'm Drake Maye, I'm not thinking there's no way I could be as good as Josh Allen. That's crazy. Josh Allen hasn't won anything. Josh Allen's a very good quarterback. Josh Allen's a great quarterback. But that's so unrealistic. Come on.
I know, and Fred, I thought that was a little one. I wish they challenged Bill on that a little bit on that.
Wrong
set.
show.
Have you watched the Pat McAfee show?
I do have to say, though, I finally saw a clip that gave me, I guess, some hope that if he continues to do this, he will be able to bring something to the table. Telling the trade for Randy Moss story. I don't know if you saw that one, Mike.
I did.
Okay, so that was one where I'm like, okay, he's actually telling a story. Now, you can't get away with story time when you're doing game day at a desk and you've got, 20, 30 seconds to talk. You have to say something. But, talking to Al Davis about getting Randy Moss here on the track, okay, that was a good story.
But I interrupted you, Mike. Why you wish they would have pushed back the McAfee show?
Yeah. So on the Josh Allen, when Belichick mentioned that, I mean, when Josh Allen was coming out of Wyoming, he was a 56% passer. And the first couple years he was with the Bills, I mean, I don't believe Bill Belichick viewed Josh Allen the same way he does now.
Oh, sure.
And I think that's what I would have loved to seen them push back on him a little bit there. Because the way I thought he mentioned that was, he says he compares himself to Josh Allen. We'll see about that. And I'm like, well, obviously, he's not going to be what Josh Allen is now. Like, the whole point is how you develop him, which is what we're talking about, right? Like, they did a masterful job developing Josh Allen, and now that's the challenge for the Patriots with Drake.
And I think it's that one thing we've talked about it before, Mike. It is the biggest unknown about this upcoming season, the one that doesn't get talked about enough. Coaching. We got all new coaching to deal with here, and who's gonna take over, who's gonna be his guy, who's gonna be Drake Maye's guy, and that's gonna have as much to do with this as anything else.
Huge. Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. And just finally on this, it's again, like, completely unfair. It's not like Drake Maye's like some egotistical prick that was running around calling himself Josh Allen. Like, I mean, it came up. All right, I've defined myself defending this kid. Very rare territory for me with the Patriots.
I think you've been defending the Patriots for the last month. That's got to hurt.
He's really more of a Drake May guy.
I'm just a huge fan. I've watched him play every Saturday. I couldn't get enough of him. I saw him every snap.
You love free agency. You love the top pick in the draft. This is brutal for you.
I know so much about all these guys. I do know Joe Mixon, and he ain't going to play quarterback in the NFL. That I can tell you.
If you like that clip, and how could you not? Check out more videos from Toucher and Hardy here. Point slightly up and to the left. For more Patriots analysis and opinion, hit this playlist. Point slightly down and to the left. And for the latest from the Sports Hub, download at 985thesportshub.com.